Mohegans are a Native American people in Connecticut. The majority are associated with the Mohegan Indian Tribe, a federally recognized tribe living on a reservation in the eastern upper Thames River valley of south-central Connecticut. It is one of two federally recognized tribes in the state, the other being the Mashantucket Pequot. There are also three state-recognized tribes: Schaghticoke, Paugusett, and Eastern Pequot. At the time of European contact, the Mohegan and Pequot were a unified tribal entity living in the southeastern Connecticut region, but the Mohegans gradually became independent as the hegemonic Pequots lost control over the trading empire and tributary groups, Pequot being a name given to the Mohegans by other tribes throughout the Northeast was eventually adopted by themselves over time. In 1637, English Puritan colonists, with the help of Uncas, Pequots and the Narragansetts, destroyed a principal fortified village at Mystic and systematically destroyed the remaining Pequot nation during the Pequot War, which finally ended with the death of Schaghticoke at the hands of the Mohawks. Thereafter, under the leadership of Uncas, a sachem, the Mohegan were understood to be a separate tribal nation. Uncas' name is a variant of the Algonquin name Wonkus, which translates to fox. The word Mohegan translates in the respective Algonquin dialects as people of the wolf. Over time, the Mohegan gradually lost ownership of much of the tribal lands and the tribal status. In 1978, Chief Rolling Cloud Hamilton petitioned for federal recognition of the Mohegan. Descendants of his Mohegan band operate independently of the federally recognized nation. In 1994, a majority group of Mohegans gained federal recognition as the Mohegan Tribe of Indians of Connecticut. They have been defined by the United States government as the successor in interest to the Aboriginal entity known as the Mohegan Indian Tribe. The same year, under an act of Congress, the United States took land into trust to serve as a reservation for the tribe. Most of the Mohegan people in Connecticut today live on the Mohegan Reservation at 41.47833 degrees north, 72.08194 degrees west, 41.47833 minus 72.08194 near Uncasville, in the town of Montville, New London County. The MTIC operate one of two Mohegan Sun casinos on the reservation in Uncasville. History: the Mohegan Indian Tribe was historically based in central southern Connecticut. While originally part of the Pequot people, it gradually became independent and served as allies of English colonists in the Pequot War of 1637, which broke the power of that formerly dominant tribe in the region. In reward, the English gave Pequot captives to the Mohegan. The continuously occupied Mohegan homelands in Connecticut include landmarks like Trading Cove on the Thames River, Cockegan Rock, Fort Shantuck, and Mohegan Hill, where the Mohegan founded a congregational church in the early 1800s. In 1931, the Tantaquidgeon family built the Tantaquidgeon Indian Museum on Mohegan Hill to house tribal artifacts and histories. Gladys Tantaquidgeon served for years as the tribe's medicine woman and unofficial historian. She studied anthropology at the University of Pennsylvania and worked for a decade with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Returning to Connecticut, she operated this museum for 6 decades. It was one of the first museums to be owned and operated by Native Americans. In 1933, John E. Hamilton, a.k.a. Chief Rolling Cloud, was appointed as a Grand Sachem by his mother, Alice Story, through a traditional selection process based on heredity. She was a direct descendant of Uncas, the great 17th-century leader of the Mohegan Nation, and of Tamiquashad, Sachem of the Pequot Nation. In Mohegan tradition, the position of tribal leadership was often hereditary through the maternal line. John Hamilton was a key figure among Native American leaders initiating late 20th century land claims suits. Tribes in the Northeast had long interaction with European Americans, which had resulted in many of them becoming nearly landless. Settlement of land claims suits in the late 20th and 21st centuries was related to federal recognition for a number of Indian nations, particularly for the so-called state tribes. These were tribes along the East Coast who had been recognized by the English Crown long before individual colonial state governments had been established. But, as these native people lost control of the traditional lands and were not assigned formal reservations, they started to lose the sovereign legal status associated with recognition by federal and state governments and institutions. Land claims and federal recognition. In the 1960s, during a period of rising activism among Native Americans, John Hamilton filed a number of land claims authorized by the Council of Descendants of Mohegan Indians. The group had some 300 members at the time. In 1970, the Montville Band of Mohegans expressed its dissatisfaction with land claims litigation. When the Hamilton supporters left the meeting, this band elected Cortland Fowler as the new leader. Notes of that council meeting referred to Hamilton as Sachem. The group led by John Hamilton worked with the attorney Jerome Greiner in federal land claims through the 1970s. During this time, a Kent, Connecticut property owners organization, with some native and non-native members, worked to oppose the Hamilton land claims and the recognition petition for federal recognition, out of fear that tribal nations would take private properties. In 1978, in response to the desires of tribal nations across the country to gain federal recognition and recover tribal sovereignty, the Bureau of Indian Affairs established a formal administrative process. The process included specific criteria that BIA officials would judge as evidence of cultural continuity. In that same year, Hamilton's band submitted a petition for federal recognition for the Mohegan tribe. The petition process stalled when John Hamilton died in 1988. The petition for federal recognition was revived in 1989, but the BIA's preliminary finding was that the Mohegan had not satisfied the criteria of documenting continuity in social community and political authority and influence as a tribe through the 20th century. In 1990, the Mohegan band led by Chief Cortland Fowler submitted a detailed response to meet the BIA's concerns. The tribe included compiled genealogies and other records, including records pertaining to the Mohegan Congregational Church in Montville. BIA researchers used records provided by the Hamilton Band, records from the Mohegan Church, and records maintained by Gladys Tantaquajan, who had kept genealogy and vital statistics of tribal members for her anthropological research. In 1990, the Fowler Group, identifying as the Mohegan Tribe of Indians of Connecticut, decided that the tribe's membership would be restricted to documented descendants from a single family group, California. 1860. This criteria excludes some of the Hamilton followers. By law, a federally recognized tribe has the authority to determine its own rules for membership. The MTIC unsuccessfully attempted to stop other Mohegan people from using Mohegan as the tribal identity in public records and in craftwork. In its 1994 final determination, the BIA cited the vital statistics and genealogies as documents that were decisive in demonstrating that the tribe did indeed have social and political continuity during the middle of the 20th century. As a result, the Mohegan Tribe of Indians of Connecticut gained recognition as a sovereign tribal nation. That same year, Congress passed the Mohegan Nation Land Claim Settlement Act, which authorized the United States to take land into trust to establish a reservation for the Mohegan and settle the land claim. The final 1994 agreement between MTIC and the state in the settlement of land claims extinguished all pending land claims. The MTIC adopted a written constitution. MTIC is governed by a chief, an elected chairman and an elected tribal council, all of whom serve for specific terms. The Mohegan people associated with Sachem John Hamilton persist as an independent group today. In his will, Hamilton named his non-Mohegan wife, Eleanor Fortuna Sachem. She is now the leader of the Hamilton Group. Despite the contentious histories and disagreements, both groups continued to participate in tribal activities and to identify as members of the Mohegan people. The Hamilton Band of Mohegans continues to function and govern themselves independently of the MTIC, holding periodic gatherings and activities in the traditional territory of south-central Connecticut. Extinction and revival of language. The last living native speaker of the Mohegan language, Fidelia Flying Bird A. Hoskett Fielding, died in 1908. The Mohegan language was recorded primarily in her diaries, and in articles and a Smithsonian Institution report made by the early anthropologist Frank Speck. Her niece Gladys Stantiquidgeon worked to preserve the language. Since 2012, the Mohegan tribe has established a project to revive its language and establish new generations of native speakers. Ethnobotany. The Mohegan people have always had extensive knowledge of local flora and fauna, of hunting and fishing technologies, of seasonal adaptations, and of herbal medicine, as practices passed down through the generations. Gladys Stantiquidgeon was instrumental in recording herbal medicinal knowledge and folklore, and in comparing these plants and practices to those of other Algonquin peoples like the Lenni Lenape and Wampanoag. For example, an infusion of bark removed from the south side of the silver maple tree is used by the Mohegan for cough medicine. The Mohegan also use the inner bark of the sugar maple as a cough remedy, and the sap as a sweetening agent and to make maple syrup. Confusion among tribal names. Although similar in name, the Mohegan are a different tribe from the Mohican, who share similar Algonquian culture and constitute another branch in the Algonquin language family. The Mohican were historically based along the upper Hudson River in present-day eastern New York and along the upper Housatonic River in western Massachusetts. In the United States, both tribes have been referred to in various historic documents by the spelling Mohican, based on mistakes in translation and location. But the Dutch colonist Adrian Block, one of the first Europeans to record the names of both tribes, clearly distinguished between the Mohicans and the Mohicans, Mohicanders, Mohicans, Mohegans. In 1735, Housatonic Mohican leaders negotiated with Massachusetts Governor Jonathan Belcher to found the town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, just to the west of the Berkshire Mountains, as a mission village. After the American Revolution, these Mohican people, along with New York Mohicans, relocated to live at a new Stockbridge, alongside the Oneida in central New York. During the 1820s, the majority of these people removed further west, eventually settling in Wisconsin, where today they constitute the Stockbridge-Muncie Band of Mohegan Indians. These removals inspired the myth of the last of the Mohicans. Most of the descendants of the Mohegan tribe, by contrast, have continued to live in New England, and particularly in Connecticut, since the colonial era. Notable Mohegan: Emma Fielding Baker, revivalist of the Green Corn Ceremony and tribal chairperson. Fidelia Hoskett Fielding, last native speaker of the Mohegan Pequot language. John E. Hamilton, Grand Sachem Chief Rolling Cloud, Indian rights activist. Sam Sonokom, Presbyterian minister who helped relocate the Brothertown Indians to New York State. Gladys Tantaquidgeon, anthropologist, herbalist, co-founder of the Tantaquidgeon Museum, worked to preserve Mohegan culture through the 20th century. Uncas, first sachem of the Mohegans, Muhammad Wayanamon, sachem who traveled to England in 1735 to seek better treatment of his people. Melissa Tantaquidgeon Zobel, Mohegan tribal historian and author of several books on Mohegan culture, including Medicine Trail, The Life and Lessons of Gladys Tantaquidgeon. Madeline Sayet, writer, director, actress. B.